part of kind of the origin story of this podcast, even in my journey over the last few years, is even in our culture, you always watch the clips of the guys that are like, 5 ways to hit 9 figures, and this is how I did this, and all these experts. But there was just a time, like within a few weeks, that I was watching these clips, and it was, I don't know, one of these guys, and they were talking on this, all spilling all this knowledge, and then somebody would say something or ask a question, and they'd be like, it's kind of funny, I was actually, and this isn't the exact story, but they would tell a story like, I was actually eating lunch with one of my friends, and we were talking about this idea, and all of a sudden this old guy overheard us, and he was like, "That's a great idea. I'll give you $1 million." And they were like, "Yeah." And they're like, "And that's how I launched my business." And you're like, so wait a minute, you like, or they would tell a story, they would go into, what they went through, or for me, it's always, it's like, what about where's the hard part?
Right.
Where's the time between, being in exile to getting in the promised land. And I think that's where you don't ever hear about. And that's the magic.
Those are where the stories happen.
And that's what I'm struggling. Like, that's been tough for me, because I want to, I know where I want to go.
Right.
But I'm realizing that it's going to take time.
Yeah.
And that's what's the work. Like, it's tough.
Nobody likes that.
No. And then nobody wants to talk about, I just did an interview or podcast with a guy, and it was just the last, he had like 3 or 4 years where it was just, had to leave one church. Then, wife had a miscarriage. Then they went and planted another church. And then within a few years, the entire church building burned down.
Jeez.
And it was within 4 or 5 years. And I'm like, I don't care about all the stuff you've done. How did you
navigate that? Physically, spiritually, mentally.
Everything. Like, how are you still, it's like, how are you still here? I think those are the stories that really matter. But let's do this. Why don't we, is there anything before 2019? Cause we've hung out quite a bit, but you went to Central Baptist.
Yeah.
I forgot about, one of my friends who's a client, Jason Kimbrough, his dad was the president.
He was the president. Jason and I went to school together there.
Maybe I knew that. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So I still work with CBC.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And their new president. That's so crazy.
I played basketball there for 2 years. And then
did you really?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So I know I don't look like it.
No.
5'9".
Hey,
I have all the tools.
Hey, listen. If you have the passion to play, you can play somewhere.
Yeah.
Listen. That's crazy. I didn't realize. I was reading that last night. I'm like, oh, this guy. I didn't know. I didn't say that you played basketball there, but you went somewhere afterwards, didn't you?
So I went back to the University of Arkansas.
Okay.
After that, and finished my undergrad there in education. So I went through like 2 or 3 years of Bible school. Then I was like, you know what? If this doesn't work out, this whole Bible thing doesn't work out, I'm going to go get an education degree. And then when I finished my education degree, I actually went into ministry. So it was crazy.
So what was your first ministry job after that?
So I was a student director in North Carolina for 5 years.
What we're at?
In a small community called Kinston, church of about 1,000 people, home of Jerry Stackhouse, Brandon Ingram, and Reggie Bullock. All played high school basketball there.
Dang.
So it was fun to go watch high school basketball.
That's crazy.
And so I went and watched Brandon Ingram his junior year, and I was like, they hung 100 points on a high school team. This is 8-minute quarters. And so that was pretty fun. So I was there for 5 years. I ran a conference there. That's how I met our friend Manny Arango.
That's
and
right.
a few people like that.
Yeah.
And so
because I forgot, then Brad Chandler too.
Yeah, that's how I met Brad. All of us kind of ran in the same circles together.
You know, he just got engaged.
Yeah, I told him, I texted him, said congratulations, bro. I was pumped for him.
We talk all the time now. We're like, he's become one of my best friends.
He's good at what he does, man.
He really is. Yeah. I forget. God, the world is so small. Okay. And then anything that you want to mention before we kind of get into, I want to start with around the church planning and that perfectly timed church plan.
Yeah.
And everything around that. Cause we actually haven't got to talk about that in detail. So I'm excited to hear about that, but kind of maybe give some context leading up to that, and then just jump in that, and I'll kind of start hammering you.
So before it, 2011, went to a conference. It was called All Access at that point in time. It was ARC before it was the ARC conference.
Forgot about that. And
Joe Champion spoke, and he talked about church planning. And I remember the passage, Luke chapter 1, talking about how Luke had his own story to write.
Yeah.
And he said, if you're in here and you feel called to plant a church, I want you to stand. I said, I did. And then I wound up planting years and years later. But so that was kind of the genesis of all of it, of just like, hey, this is a calling that I'm feeling. I didn't know what that looked like. I had no clue. And so fast forward to 2019. Well, 2019 was actual plant year, but then 2018 went through all the training and all the things that prepared you to actually launch a church, excuse me, which was intimidating and scary because I'd never done it.
Yeah.
And then, so I went out to Florida to Randy Bezet's church and went through all of the training to launch a life-giving church here in DFW. And then that's when we launched in 2019.
Right after that.
1 year old, barely 1 year old.
So then when you guys, what was the timeline from when you guys planted to when like everything was starting to shut down? So
we launched in 2019, January, launched with over 300 people, had a great launch. I moved here, knew 4 people. And so we spent that first year, like any plant, going up and down as far as like attendance, trying to establish who we were, not just there, but financially, what we were going to do, who we were going to become as a church established in DFW, which is difficult because there's a church on every corner in DFW. And then the end of 2019, I went on a cruise, came back, and then in April or May, somewhere around in there, everything just shut down. And that was the turning point of a lot of my life. Actually, that moment there probably got me to where I am today. I just didn't see it in that moment. And so a lot of it was anger and frustration. I was mad at God. I was frustrated with myself.
Yeah.
Because I think that sometimes there's a lot of, whether we like to believe it or not, there's a lot of ego on the line in the church world.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of like, hey, this is what I wanted to do and what I wanted to plant and what I felt like God called me to do. And if you'll hear the language in that, there's a lot of me and a lot of I. Mm-hmm. And you go through that and you just realize that I really am nobody, and nobody cares as much as I think that they care. And so that whole season of shutting down a church, walking through the most painful times of my life, and struggling on calling and identity, and did I make a mistake because this happened?
Yeah.
Did I really hear from God? Can I hear from God anymore? Just every question you could imagine.
Yeah, I mean that's a question that I was going to ask you, because I've experienced something similar. Like, how do you have that conversation with yourself on, well, I thought I heard God to do this, and I stood up at a conference, but now it's I gotta what am I gonna do now?
My whole life changed.
Yeah.
I literally went from planting a successful church to having no church and having nothing, and nobody was hiring in the middle of COVID.
Yeah.
So especially the church, they weren't like, hey, let's. And then I experienced divorce during that season. I experienced that, for me, the most broke I had ever been in my life. And so I had a guy that went to our church that owned a logistics company, actually a portion of a logistics company, some routes. And I said, I need a job. And he goes, you want to drive for me? And so during COVID, from sunup to sundown, I delivered packages for almost a full year, from the time the sun was up to the time the sun was down. And I made zero money doing that. Here's one of the craziest stories. I remember I was a contract laborer. So it was an I-9.
Oh my
you
gosh.
Literally,
Yeah.
you got paid by how many packages you delivered. And I was delivering rural routes from time to time.
Yeah.
And so it took longer than usual. You weren't it wasn't like a suburban area where I could just go drop package. And so I remember getting my I-9 that year as a contract laborer, and I looked down on it, and I lived in Keller. And if you know where that is in the Metroplex, I made $20,000 that year in the middle of COVID. And I just thought, I laugh at it now. But in that moment, I took a picture of it. It's still on my phone today as a reminder that no matter how difficult life can be, I remember thinking, I don't know why they're sending me like the bills to my electricity or water. Just send me the shut-off notice. That's when I know to actually pay the bill. It was terrible. Just if it's pink, all right, it's time to pay the bill. It was terrible.
But how did you deal with that? I mean, there has to have been some shame, embarrassment, just even, and not that it's, it's not like delivering is a bad thing, but it's just when you go from big vision and called by God and you're preaching on stage to delivering packages.
Yeah,
it's like comical.
It is. It's comical, and it's humiliating, and it's humbling. And so, I went from all of these things to raising support and funds and launching and having people believe in me.
Yeah.
To crickets, and so I had nothing. And I would even say a part of that was due to my own undoing. So I think that when you are a person that's like big picture, big vision, let's go after something, you burn the plows.
Yeah.
So there was no plan B.
Yeah.
Let's just go. I had sold a home. I'd taken the money from that home. We had invested everything we had into launching a church. And I remember thinking, God, if this is what it's like following you, I don't want any, I'm good. You can have these people, you can have whatever. I don't want any part of it. But for about a 2-year span, the day I shut down my church was also the day that I started to navigate the turmoil of a broken marriage. I have a daughter who's now will be 16 in October. And so I got off of all social media. 2 years, I went silent. As a matter of fact, people thought that I just disappeared.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, you couldn't get a hold of me unless you had my phone number.
Yeah.
I remember the first year living in my apartment, so I told you I made $20,000. I didn't even, I didn't get internet in my apartment. I just streamed from my phone to save money. And so the only time I got internet was when I would go to Starbucks or when I would go, and I did that for over a year. When my daughter would come over, I would say, oh man, I don't know what's wrong with the TV. Here, we'll just stream from our phones. And I would just stream from my phone to the TV.
No.
And
Bro.
she has no idea about that story, by the way. And so I would do whatever I could to make sure she was taken care of.
Yeah, of course.
And so during that season, I think when you're in survival mode, you don't realize what you are, until you're in survival mode, you don't realize what you are capable of, what you are capable of going through and coming out of. And so during that season, man, delivering packages, quiet, nobody, just me in the road. I had a lot of time to think, a lot of time to yell, a lot of time to process. And then I would call my brother, and for hours, he would just listen to me just vent about life. I had another friend that I would call after I'd call my brother and be like, hey, it was therapeutic.
Of course. Well, and I think that's what, as I'm listening to you, I'm processing on next questions, but the fact that I think a lot of people, I think sometimes even me, when we get into situations like that, we don't want to call somebody, or we don't want to let people know, hey, man, I got to talk to somebody. So that's because I mean, and then the other question was like, how do you navigate? Like, genuinely, how do you navigate that? Having lost, the church. I don't know if loss is the right word, but the situation with the church and the wife, and then also for your daughter being, I got to be dad. I'm still dad, and so you still got to, again, you don't got internet, so we got to. Lie to the
Let's go jump on the trampoline that I don't have. Let's go find something. So,
I mean, even going from a home to an apartment to
1 bedroom, one couch, and again, I don't ever blame other people for those seasons.
For sure,
I take responsibility for those seasons, and honestly, I look back at those seasons, and there was real joy with my daughter and I.
Yeah.
Because there was nothing that distracted me from our attention with one another. Those years we created memories that will last a lifetime.
Wow.
And then also every year around Thanksgiving, we would write what we're grateful for, put it in a jar for the whole month of November. And then right before Thanksgiving, we would open it up.
Yeah.
And we would read to each other. So we didn't get to choose, you just put it in the and pick out what's, and we now continue to do that to this day. And gratitude was the leading voice of, hey, it could be worse, even when it doesn't seem like it could be worse. And so literally I drove around for a year, just putting miles on a car. And again, nobody is at fault in that situation on how everything was handled post, other than me. I had to handle it. Yeah. And when you have a kid, you just do whatever you can to survive.
For sure.
And so you just make sure that what she sees is not what's the current reality of your life. So it gave me a lot of, it gave me a lot of perspective. It gave me a lot of humility. I think it allowed me to take my attention off myself, surprisingly, and put it on what's best for my daughter. And what was best for her is that I would become a whole and healthy person after all that. But again, I'm a guy, and dudes don't like to talk about their shame and their guilt
for
and
sure,
their issues and their problems.
Exactly.
And I just decided that if this was going to be the worst that happened to me, I'm going to decide to be the best version I can. So the therapy for me was not going to therapy. It was calling people that I was close with and allowing me to say whatever I wanted with no filter, with all the struggles in the world, and them not try to give an answer, but just listen. And that's essentially what therapy does for you.
And their studies show, I forget where I heard this from, but basically if if everyone, or if you have people in your life that you can talk to, process, that are, that can listen but tell you the truth, we wouldn't need counselors or therapists.
Absolutely.
I mean, of course we would at some level. I mean, there's some trauma that is specific, but the fact that just for your brother and your friend, the fact that you had them to talk to. And I think that's the tough part, which gets a lot of people. And I think in ministry, when stuff happens, is you don't have those people that you can go, hey, this is what I'm dealing with. Yeah. And then you bury it in shame and then it just blows up.
Yeah, because ministry, whether we want to believe it or not, it creates, what's the word that I'm looking for? It tends to create echo chambers.
Yeah.
And sometimes those echo chambers, you're by yourself at the top, and people have an idea of what they think their pastor or who they think their pastor should be. Mm-hmm. And the moment you're hit with pressure or stress or anxiety or divorce or family emergencies, and you show any bit of being a human, people are like, oh, I can't believe that he would act like that, or he would behave this way. And so for me, I had those two people had also walked through very similar paths.
Yeah.
So they understood the assignment.
Yeah.
I've been here. My role is to listen. So I would call and I would say, hey, I don't need you to answer. I need to get some stuff off my chest.
Yeah.
And if I ask you a question, you can answer that, but I don't need you to try to solve the problem. I just need to vent.
Yeah.
And they did. And it was very, very helpful for me.
It's funny as we're talking through this, and just even for me, when it comes to, just life, and we're all kind of getting better, working through things. And one of the things that, call it God or whatever, but a motif is just this listening piece. And what kind of kicked it off was actually some, basically some sales people, like sales professionals, whatever, that were talking about, how to do sales well and blah, blah. And they were basically, their point was like, listen, if you just listen a lot, you will win with people all day, every day.
Yeah.
And I think for me, in my personality, and just, you got to be vocal, you got to lead, and that listening part is, it's like almost doesn't happen.
Yeah.
But the power of that for whatever you're doing, business, ministry, husbands, wives, like kids, just sometimes you just gotta listen, which is funny. You say that like with your daughter, but just it's like, we got half an internet and a couch. What's up?
How's it going?
You good?
Bro, it was crazy. I had my guitar, and one time she was trying to, she was in the choir at her local school, and she had to sing Mary Had a Little Lamb. So I'm playing the guitar as she's singing it, and she just can't get this note. And she started crying, and dude, I struggled to get through that moment. She left. I took her home that night, and I got back in my apartment, and I cried. I was like, I'm not supposed to be doing this by myself. And I say all that to say, those moments, though, of just listening, of knowing that there's some tension in her life.
Yeah.
And I've learned to practice this phrase over and over again. I hear you.
Yeah.
And then I just sit. And most often, people will continue to talk if you just say, I hear you.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. People hate silence.
Mm-hmm.
They hate it. And if you just, I've been trying to be so intentional about that. So one of the things when I'm working with churches is before we get started, I'm also trying to figure out a time to get Taylor so I could do it with him. But we call it a blueprint, but basically it's just a bunch of questions so I can get to know the people that I'm working with, because I can't, it's like a doctor. If I don't know your problems, I can't help you across the board. So again, I am fully aware that I'm a yapper. I talk fast. I'm all over the place. So it is not easy for me. But I realize that if I'll ask a question And even a lot of people, even if they've done it before or they're, they seem kind of confident, but I'll kind of walk through that, and certain questions, I'll just give it an extra 10 or 15 seconds. And I'm telling you, it's like, boom, another level, and then boom, another level. Then, wow, I don't know. And then I feel like within that, there's like a breaking point where people it's like, okay, cool. I can just be me. I can just talk. Was there ever a point, when you're, I'm trying to think of a fancy way to, you're a regional truck, regional, how do you fancy up
logistics?
Regional logistics coordinator, regional coordinator operator. Was there ever a moment where you felt like, okay, it's time to move on, or it's time to make the shift, or what was that moment?
I had applied for so many jobs during that season, and I finally applied for a job for a drug company, for a pharmaceutical company.
Oh, that's right. Yep.
And they called me, and I pulled over to the side of the road to literally to do an interview with my phone.
Wow.
And I think that it was helpful because it showed that I was working and that I was willing to go work. And also, I too have a tendency to be able to talk pretty well. I'm a pastor. For a living is kind of what I do. And so interviews have never been like a massive problem for me. So then they brought me in. And so for a little while, I went from delivering packages to making pretty good money.
Yeah.
But then I had to catch up from the year or two of just being behind on everything.
For sure.
And so that first season of being a drug rep, I tell people all the time I was a legal drug dealer like during that season. So I would just make moves.
Great for messages.
Right.
I was a drug dealer illegally.
And so we would go around and
the youth kids love it.
Yes,
the youth kids love it.
I think it's fantastic. Oh my gosh. And it's
Pastor was a drug dealer. Actually, if I was a real one, I would have made more money.
Yeah, a real one. And so I did that for a season, and then the pharmaceutical company had talks of getting bought out. Well, the way companies are structured, and you probably see this often, is that you had your top tier person, you had your lower end person, and you had your middle of the pack person. Well, when they brought me in, I was in the middle, and then they brought in a younger person than me. It was very young in life. And I knew one or two things are going to happen. If this gets bought out, they're going to clean house and bring in their own people, and I'm probably going to be the first one to go. So because of my networking abilities, I was connected to another company that was a home health company. Same concept, same ideology, same mindset, but it was for referrals for people who were coming out of the hospital that needed home health care. So my role,
the same ones in Minnesota, right? Trending topic. Clip it. Clip that. Anyways, sorry.
So now you're good. So I absolutely loved that job. The company had a ton of Christian values. The owners used to be youth pastors.
Wow.
And they allowed me to be myself.
Yeah.
And so I did really well for them.
That's cool.
And then I started attending Compass.
Okay.
And while I was there, the campus pastor, who I'm great friends with, Josh, was like, our story goes back to my church plant. He showed up at my church plant when we were 4 weeks old.
Wow.
Because he was going to do the same thing. And he wound up not doing it.
Oh.
And wound up going through some difficult seasons of his life. and then took the campus pastor job as a teaching pastor there.
Oh.
And so when I started attending there, it was based off of friendship.
Yeah.
I didn't want to go somewhere that was so big that I could blend in and never be asked to do anything, but I did want to go to somewhere that it was big enough to also blend in and not be asked to do anything, but to be known.
Yeah.
Like to have community. So I knew him, and I just started attending. No strings attached. I just want to go to church. I remember the first Sunday I walked in, I was so frustrated.
How long was it? Was that the first time you'd really been to church in a long time?
Yeah, 6-8 months. I hadn't been anywhere. Now, mind you, some churches were still staying shut down for a long amount of time.
That was a great time not to go to church.
It was a fantastic time not to go to church.
Even though you probably wouldn't have anyways. But it was COVID.
Yeah, it was COVID.
Yeah.
So it was really the end of 2020. I think about November is when I started showing up, and it wasn't like consistent. So I showed up, and the first Sunday I walked in, I was really frustrated because it brought back all of the emotion from shutting down a church.
Yeah.
And again, my selfishness played a role in that of like, God, this is supposed to be me.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to have this building.
Triggered.
I sold my house. I did all of these things.
Yeah.
And so it triggered me a little bit. I was frustrated.
Yeah, you thought you got through it. You're like, oh, little left.
So, but I started showing back up just consistently.
Yeah.
And then 2022, end of 2021, I just said, hey, do you guys need help with, I felt ready to not join staff, but just like, do you guys need help with anything?
Yeah.
I hosted all the Christmas services that we had that year in 2021. And so people started asking, like, do you work here? And I was like, no, I do not work here, nor do I want to.
Yeah.
Well, then Josh is like, hey, do you want to work here? At that point in time, I'd been an established drug rep. I was working for a home health company doing really well. And I looked at him and I said, you can't afford me.
Yeah.
I will not come work for the church again.
Yeah.
I just didn't want to do it. I would listen to their conversations and be like, thank God I don't have to have that conversation anymore. You know, and so he shelved it. He never mentioned it again.
Wow.
Until they had some staff talking about transitioning to one of our other locations. And he was like, hey, just gonna throw it out there. Would you be interested? And I said, I eat these words all the time, but I said, I'll pray about it.
Yeah.
And that was where God started to work in my spirit and my soul of like, hey, I got more in you. But it was still very difficult for me because there's still this shame. I think the church is fantastic at a lot of things except for divorced people. They're great at it. They're great at it. They want to help the least of these, and they're fantastic at it. We have great missions programs. We have great recovery programs. We have all of these things that help people. But we don't want to handle divorced people. Not just divorced people, but divorced pastors specifically. And so it was
because basically you guys should be, you guys are done for life.
We're done. You can't do anything in the church ever again.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's how I felt.
Oh, I'm sure. I can't, dude.
And even today, that it rears its ugly head from time to time in my own personal walk of how much I can and cannot do in the local church for God's kingdom. And I still wrestle with it.
Yeah.
But Compass, my home church, I say this all the time. I ask this question, why would you guys want to hire me?
Yeah.
And they said something I thought was interesting. One of the executive pastors, he said, well, I think that you'll be able to help our staffs understand what it looks like to not forsake their ministry for their marriage. And he was right.
Wow.
I cared a lot about the team, about what was going on in their personal lives, what was going on in their world. And so I prayed about it some more, and then I wound up taking the job there as the associate campus pastor in 2022. They said, "When do you want to start?" And I said, "After Easter."
Yeah,
that's I ain't never going to get one of these again.
I'm going to enjoy this last Easter.
So I enjoyed it.
That's so funny.
And so I started the week after Easter, no lie. Here's my start date.
That is smart.
And so I was
That's
like,
wisdom.
I just wanted to enjoy this one last time.
Wow.
And so I've been there since 2022, operating in staff. I handle our teams. I essentially function as an associate pastor, or in the business world, like a COO.
Yeah.
So operations, making sure that we're in the right space, that our vision and mission is moving forward. I teach there about 8-10 times a year, and have a good time.
Yeah.
So, and it's been a blessing to me. Essentially, what they did was they saw in me what I didn't see in myself.
Of course.
And I didn't know that was possible in the church world during that season.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing. We're great at a lot of things, but learning how to deal with people who have gone through divorce and the family dynamic in our society has changed immensely.
Sure.
And so the church has had to do a couple things. They've had to learn how to navigate that. They've also had to learn how to accept the fact that the majority of people walking through their doors are navigating or have navigated what it looks like to live in a blended family.
So then what would you say to someone who has walked through something similar like yourself, or even to another senior pastor who is like, man, how do we, whether it's potentially hiring someone or someone on your staff, that obviously it's situational.
Yeah.
Okay, what you got to know the story.
Right.
But maybe speak to that from what you've learned and, what you've lived, and encourage maybe someone that's, hey, it's not over or whatever, but maybe just speak to that.
I think that the vetting process has to be real.
Yeah.
And I think,
which I don't think the church does a very good job of.
No.
Please call your references. Listen, if you're going to hire someone, just ask some questions.
Just ask questions.
Just ask questions. You don't have to go on a PI investigation.
No.
But call references. Ask the hard questions. I promise you it's worth the time.
I think on the flip side of that, though, if you're the person that's going through the possible hiring process, you cannot make any of that season of your life deflective towards the other person or what may or may not have happened that you did or did not like. So what I did was, when I went into a couple of interviews, I was just honest. Yeah. And I said, I could have been better here, and here as a leader, as a father, and as a husband.
Yeah.
And I think that's respectable.
Yeah.
But most people in church world, again, it's this hidden agenda, or not even agenda, but there's this hidden way of like, I've got to be buttoned up and proper, and I've got to say all the right things, and I've got to be very churchy in my answers. And I was just like, hey, I wasn't good in this area.
Yeah.
And I was very vulnerable.
Yeah.
And I think perhaps a lot of that is because I'd lived in a very vulnerable state for about a year and a half, like in a very transparent, like I may have been too transparent for some people. I was very honest with them about my own life. Never mentioned anything about the rest of it. I was just about me.
It's amazing when you go through something like that, and I don't know if it's just about even some of the stuff that I went through, my wife went through, but you get to a point when, you get so low, or things have been stripped away, that it's like you have nothing to hide. It's like, hey, I have nothing else to lose.
Yeah. Well,
everything's already been stripped away.
Yeah.
And so it's like, hey, this is what happened.
To the point to where today, if I lost everything, I would be okay because I know how to build it back.
Yeah.
And the majority of us, when we lose everything, you're like, what do I do? You live in turmoil, and sometimes people spend years trying to dig themselves out of that hole. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't take time to work on themselves and become better. I just think it's real easy to live in the mindset of, I wish I would have, or I could have, or if I would have. There's so many things that people wrestle with. But to answer the question to the senior pastor, I think working with guys like me, you're probably going to get a lot more honesty if the person's real honesty than you expected.
Yeah.
And I would say to vet them really well, because there are people that go through divorces that made really, really, really poor choices.
Yeah.
And so I would say that in any interview process, but specifically dealing with the church and how the church views divorce, that both parties have to be as honest as possible. And if a senior pastor looks at somebody like me and says, tell me about what happened, if you can't be transparent and honest about that, then you probably can't be transparent and honest about a lot of things in your life, in the church world, with people, whatever it may be. And so I think that it's both and. I got to be honest, they've got to be honest. But I also want to say this to the potential possibility of a senior pastor hiring somebody who's been through what I've been through. Divorce does not mean that person has less ability.
Yeah.
Or that they're not valuable to the kingdom of God.
Yeah.
And I would say in most of the circles that I run in now, that most people are like, yeah, of course. That would not be the case growing up. That would not be the case of they would be more like, oh, you got divorced. Sorry.
Yeah.
I don't know what you can do in the kingdom of God anymore.
Yeah.
But if you've been through, a rehabilitation process on whether it be through alcoholism or pornography or whatever it may be, get up here, get this microphone, man. We want you to tell your story, it's your testimony. Yeah. But for me, it's like, and I still struggled telling my story. And there's a lot of stuff in my story that I still keep guarded with.
Yeah.
But I tell people often, I used to never do premarital counseling because I was like, who wants advice from the guy who didn't do it right? Now, seasoned in it, I would say every time I do premarital counseling, I have a lot more input that is helpful and beneficial.
Yeah, for sure. Here's how not.
Here's how you don't screw your life up. They ask a question like, well, I'll tell you what not to do. Here's,
This session's called How to Get Divorced 101. Be the title of the podcast.
Oh, gosh. Don't do that.
Pastor talks about how to get a divorce. I'm sorry.
Here's how not to screw your life up.
Oh, God. No, but it really is. It when I think about just even the church as a whole, that is, and I know there's people out there and there's great ministries, but I do feel like that is one of those things that it just doesn't get talked about much or, even discussed. And even all the, pastors and churches I know and conferences I've been to, it's like, man, that is a pretty quiet topic, but it happens. I mean, especially COVID just exposed everything.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm trying to think, I'm sitting here thinking the amount of, pastors that something like that happened. And I would say most of them, it wasn't for anything like moral failure, or it was just like this, and I don't know all the details of everything, but it was just like something clicked and it was like, boom and whatever. It's like, what the heck?
Life got crazy. And I think if COVID did anything, it exposed wounds that were not dealt with, whether it be pre-marital, whether it be in your marriage. I was married 13 years.
Gosh.
And so
that's a lot. I mean,
it's a long time.
Yeah.
And so you don't realize that COVID exposed a lot of things that we didn't necessarily, or that we should have probably talked about.
Yeah.
And I'm the worst. I mean, I'll be honest. I can talk in front of people all the time, but if you want me to open up and share about what I'm really struggling with or how I really feel, I'm not going to do that because that would reveal a portion of my soul or bear a portion of my soul that I don't frankly want anybody to be a part of.
Yeah.
And I think there was a lot of that too, because you're forced to have conversation and you're just, I don't.
Yeah.
Or you're forced to not have conversation.
Yeah.
And that was the killer of probably a lot of marriages.
Yeah.
Divorce rate skyrocketed in
absolutely. It was one of the others. Divorces skyrocketed and babies skyrocketed.
Yeah. So it helped some people, hurt some people.
At the same time. It was both this.
Yeah. It was like, we're pregnant. How'd that happen?
We're pregnant. It's not mine. Anyways. All right. No, that's man, I feel like we could really go into that because I do think that's what's really, for me with you is unique and who you are. And for people watching, I think they're going to get a taste of that because you wouldn't like, you're the most humble, like, for me, it's like you're a guy that none of that should have happened. So I'm like, you are just, you're nice, you're humble, you're kind, you're put, you like all this stuff. And it's like, good God, like the church. And then like, I don't know what's worse. Like it's like church shut down, divorce, and then driving a package truck.
Yeah.
I don't know what's worse. Like, I'm just trying to think as a man.
They all suck.
They do. Like, I guess, we've got a few more minutes, but I guess, like, how do you deal with that shame? Like, going back to, because that's been, even for me and some of the stuff that, and I think even for a lot of people go through, is processing that, especially when I feel like in ministry, you have your identity gets wrapped up in it.
Yeah. I think you deal with it. I dealt with it silently for some seasons, for a portion of that season. I think that it actually pushed me to dive back into why I'm actually put on earth. I think the Bible does two things. It prescribes and it describes.
That's good.
And Psalm 139 is the Imago Dei, the description of how God feels about humanity. He says, you're fearfully, wondrously, remarkably made in my image. And then Ephesians 2:10 says that we're masterpieces put on earth to create good works before the foundations of the earth. And I think too many of us operate from an Ephesians 2:10 mentality instead of a Psalm 139 identity. And so I had to go back to, I'm made in the image of Jesus. And the greatest title I could ever have in any world is not even dad, it's son.
Yeah.
And so it's a constant reminder. I do this every morning with my daughter on the way to school. I'll say, remember who you are.
Yeah.
And that question has been has been a statement that we say every day since kindergarten.
Yeah.
Remember who you are. And I'll say, you are. And she will say, you. And I'll say, you don't have to be anybody else but, and she'll say, you.
Yeah.
And the reason that matters to me is because I want to instill in her identity way before she puts into practice a calling, a gifting.
Yeah.
Because most of us just have it backwards.
Yeah.
We operate in our calling and our gifting, and I think that it creates a false identity of who we actually are.
For sure.
And so in those seasons of my life of shame and guilt, I have been subtly reminded by the Holy Spirit that, hey, you're fearfully, remarkably, wondrously made in the image of God. And I'll tell you, that has walked me through pastoring. That's walked me through consulting companies and businesses and all of those things. So I'm not operating from a talent perspective because I don't think I'm that talented.
Yeah.
But what I am operating out of is now is like, man, I'm a son of God.
Yeah.
And nothing can thwart that process. Like that identity is what flows from me. And that's helped me when I've pitched ideas to go speak at for businesses. That's helped me when I've any of those kind of things. When I've spoke at church, it's people are like, you seem like you're so genuine. I'm like, I don't know any other way to be. And so it's helped me.
Man, that is good. That is so good. Well, I like to wrap it up at the end like this is who is, and this could be someone that, your entire life or just even recently, but who is somebody for you, if I ask the question, like who is someone that I need to know, or who's someone that's made an impact for you that, like, hey, you need to go check this person out, follow, or you just want to give a shout out. Like, who is someone that for you?
I'll go with a kind of 2 people, maybe 3, but
Jesus,
that'll be
the Father, Lord, Son, Holy Spirit,
the Lord and Savior.
All right, Pastor. All right,
all 3, the Trinity. No, I'm joking. My campus pastor, Josh Wright, is an amazing human.
Good,
and he doesn't do a lot of social media. He's pretty quiet, but man, that guy has done so much for me personally and spiritually in the last 5 years than I can ever imagine. And then I would say I have another friend named Josh Foleyart who runs an organization called Multiply in Northwest Arkansas. And Multiply establishes leaders all over the world. They want to be on 7 continents when it's all said and done.
Wow.
And then this guy does not affect me personally as far as like I don't know him, but I love his content, and it's Ian Simpkins, just black boxes on the internet all the time. Yeah. He's just a great writer.
He is.
And he will say stuff that I'll be like, man, I never thought of that. And so he's just one of my favorite follows.
Like
on the
even
internet.
AI can't write like him.
No, it's crazy. And so he's just is a well, and I'll be like, oh my gosh. So he doesn't even know me. But
never know.
Yeah.
Hey, Ian Simpkins, shout out.
Shout out.
Come on the podcast.
Yeah, he'd do great.
We'll bring him back.
Bring him back. Let's do it.
I'm down. And then any books?
Yeah. So 100X Leader by Jeremy Kubicek.
I think I've read that one.
And it's just about managing internal chaos. It actually talks about how to lead from a Sherpa's mentality, people who help others climb Mount Everest. Has been one of my favorite reads this year. And then I would say another book written by him called The 5 Voices. And it's just about how everybody has a voice in your organization. And few people don't know it, so they don't know how to communicate. And he basically teaches organizational communication and how we all have these 5 voices. And I highly recommend both those books just for leadership and connecting with people and things like that.
That's great. And then we'll end it with this because I know when did you write your
oh man, 2021,
was it that long ago?
Yeah, it's been out for
really?
A while. Yeah.
Wow, I feel like it's been forever. Yeah, but talk about that, and then I want to give you one, I want to encourage anybody that if you have gone through and resonate with the stories that Mitch is a real person, and he will, if you want to reach out to him, we'll put all your stuff in the description, the show notes and stuff like that. He is also, if you are a active LinkedIner, come join us on LinkedIn, the
community, y'all.
Because he is, Mitch is one of the few pastors that I know that is absolutely super effective on that platform. And we could honestly do a whole nother podcast on that. But if you are a business guy, Christian, pastor on LinkedIn, check him out there. He's great follow, great opportunity. Again, we could do a whole session because what you've done on there is so cool. And it's actually, truthfully, it's encouraged me going from ministry to business. And you were single-handedly the one person, years ago that like seeing what you were doing is like, okay, you can be effective in,
you can be.
And I would say for pastors and there's not a lot on there.
No,
there's a lot of opportunity to influence that space. Yeah. And so, man, check them out there. And then, talk about what you got, resources, anything like that going on right now.
So I am I spent about a year getting certified in the 5 voices of leadership.
Oh, great. That's right.
So I'm certified in coaching organizations and teaching them that language and how that process helps them elevate their leadership in their company. And then a few years ago, I wrote the most basic, simple book you could ever write.
You wrote it.
But I did. I'm an author. It was 20 days of devotions. It was literally 1 page. It was basically a picture book for adults.
I love picture books.
Yeah. So I did that for somebody that wakes up in the morning that is in the business world.
That's cool.
And says, hey, and the way that happened was LinkedIn. A guy reached out to me and said, hey, have you ever thought about writing content for people in the business world? And I go, no, but I have now. And so I just took the 20 best topics that I felt like I could be real clear on, and I wrote on them. And I created a little small book of like 7,000 or 8,000 words. And so you can find me on my website, mitchsugg.com.
Oh, yeah.
And I do travel and speak some from time to time. And I love people, man. I absolutely love being around people. And at the end of the day, I want to use the purpose that God has given me to help others discover the purpose that God has given them and unlock that. So that's really why I'm here.
I love it. I love you. Thanks for coming on.
Too,
and I'm believing through this conversation, there's going to be some people that will either have gone through or are going through similar stories, and that you can help them. And and if you are, listen, don't be silent. Don't be stubborn. I know it hurts, but you gotta talk to somebody. So reach out. We're here to help. And again, thank you so much. Like, subscribe, stay tuned for the next one. It's going to be good.